Good evening, I'm Farhana Sheikh and you're watching AWANI Tonight. How are SMEs impacted by the upcoming minimum wage increase? And is the country's job market recovery on track? More on that coming up. ASEAN is on the right track in handling the COVID-19 pandemic. Senior Defence Minister Datuk Seri Syamuddin Tun Hussein said that ASEAN members will surely overcome this pandemic, emerging stronger and wiser together.
I strongly believe that we have only been able to stand where we are today through our shared sense of responsibility to seize the initiative and work together as we have never had before. It is vital that we continue working together, especially as leaders in the defence sphere.
He said ASEAN member states have worked together, sharing best practices and arranging various travel bubbles and travel lanes as vaccination improves. He noted that almost 90% of the high-risk population in the region has been vaccinated, with at least one dose of vaccination. While in most ASEAN countries, more than 65% of their population has achieved a level of immunity to COVID-19. Hishamuddin said this in his keynote speech at the Putrajaya Forum 2022 in conjunction with this year's Defence Services Asia. At the same time, Hishamuddin stressed that disputes in the region, which includes the South China Sea, must be addressed without compromising regional security and stability.
Though we are in the business of defense and security, de-escalating a high-stakes situation is a task in itself. A task that we must all put above all else, lest we risk compromising the peace and stability in this region.
Issues relating to the South China Sea, he said, must be tackled together through established international laws and conventions that will enhance mutual trust and confidence of the region.
The South China Sea is ultimately a region of shared responsibility, a region which we in ASEAN are all collectively responsible for. Malaysia's position on the South China Sea is clear and consistent. Due to the complexity and sensitivity of the issue, through established international laws and conventions, we must increase efforts to build, maintain, and enhance mutual trust and confidence, just purely to maintain peace, security, and stability in the seas.
The minimum wage of 1,200 ringgit will be raised to 1,500 ringgit starting May 1st. Although micro SMEs will be exempted from paying the new minimum wage for now, these businesses want more time and support from the government to adjust to the policy. Chin Chi Siong from SME Association Malaysia warns that smaller SMEs are still reeling from the impacts of the pandemic and can't afford to pay the new minimum wage.
Yeah, we understand why the government have to do this, putting up these minimum wages. We do understand the main reason. But most importantly is that the government must also consider, how much impact will be, in such quick implementation, right? Of course, we will expect at least the government give us a longer period. For instance, like January 1st, 2023, at least we are well prepared for that. So a sudden announcement with implementation less than 2 months, it will definitely cause a lot of SME into difficulties. A lot of cash flow have been stuck, you couldn't really move smoothly. Because if you do not have good income, definitely you have a cash flow. A lot of them are conserving and they are very happy that, our country start opening out the borders, right? And they have to conserve money to rebuild their business. So if you quickly if you put another cost to them, that definitely affect their cash flow and affect their planning.
Chi Siong also urged for better government support for smaller businesses located outside of Klang Valley.
Klang Valley, I believe there are a lot of incentive information they can gather, right? But out of Klang Valley, there are so many of these SMEs, especially micro SMEs, they do not have chance to understand, what kind of incentives they are available. Even you talk about digital transformation, how could they help them to transform? So we believe the government agency, they have a lot of branches all over the country. Agencies like SME Corp, MDEC, MIDA, as well as Bank Negara, they can in fact take the first lead to go physically, since now we're allowed to, to have some events, go physically to all this area and give the good briefing and information how the government facilities and incentives can help rebuild the SMEs.
We'll continue after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The employment market charted an average yearly salary growth of 3.2%. This is according to a recently released salary report by JobStreet Malaysia. We speak to Managing Director Vic Siddhasanan to discuss if the country's job market recovery is on track.
We definitely see and observe that there's a lot more hiring activity in the market. So that's definitely good news for everyone. And I think that's kind of, it's really accelerated since MCO regulations and the restrictions that were in place have been lifted. We definitely see a lot more activity. In terms of the salary increase, it's very interesting because some job specializations definitely have noted an increase in salary, and some quite large increases in salary, but there've definitely been some that have actually dropped in salary as well. So let me just give you a couple of examples. So if you look at, in terms of just the ones that have increased in salary, actually GLC or government-linked companies and their jobs actually saw the biggest jump in terms of salary. So 63% increase year on year. And other positions where we do see an increase in job activity, so a lot more people putting up job placements, say in sales and marketing, but unfortunately we've seen a reduction in salary as well. So, but overall, when we look at the entire market, there's definitely been an increase in salaries year on year by 3.2%.
The pandemic has quickened the digital shift. Vic said talents must upskill and reskill to keep up with the future of work.
That all types of work no longer will exist in the future. So I think in terms of just upskilling and reskilling should just be something that we look into on an ongoing basis. We are always keeping a view of what's coming into the market, so we're aware of any new technology, even things like the metaverse from Facebook and what that means to us, in the business where we advertise. So all of these things are important for us to be abreast with what's happening. So I think upskilling, reskilling, retooling is something that from now onwards should be a day-to-day. I mean, it should be something that we always think about, and we definitely activate and personally do that.
Vic says Malaysia's employment market is to undergo some changes as the country transitions to the endemic phase.
So I don't think things are going back to where it was. So even, people working in hybrid situations or, still using a lot of digital tools is going to be the norm. So that's definitely something to look forward to, as well as I think there were recent announcements of minimum wage being increased to 1,500 ringgit a month, reduction of, the number of hours that you're legally permitted to work in a week. All of these things are, really very forward-thinking changes that are happening in the market. So that's definitely something very, very exciting for us to look forward to moving into the endemic phase.
The Russian delegation to Russia-Ukraine talks in Istanbul announced 2 steps to de-escalate the conflict toward Ukraine following a first day of talks in Istanbul, Turkey. This involves drastically reducing military activity in parts of Ukraine, mainly Kiev and Chernihiv, and a possible meeting between the 2 leaders. Ahead of the talks, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that his country is prepared to declare its neutrality and is open to compromise on the fate of the Donbas, the contested region in the country's east. In a televised speech before the meeting between the delegations started, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said it is possible to reach an agreement that can address both countries' legitimate concerns. However, earlier talks between the sides, held in person in Belarus or by video, failed to make progress on ending the month-long war. The biggest attack on a European nation since World War II had caused more than 3.8 million Ukrainians to flee abroad, while thousands have been killed and injured. Meanwhile, millions in China's financial hub of Shanghai endured a second day of lockdown after the city was effectively split in two, testing the limits of China's hardline zero-COVID strategy. The usually bustling city streets were unusually quiet, with residents of the city's eastern half confined to their homes and subjected to mandatory testing. Public transport was suspended and bridges and connecting tunnels were closed as the city scrambles to contain surging local COVID-19 cases, mainly brought by the new Omicron variant. The snap lockdown announced by Shanghai's city government on Sunday splits the city in two, roughly along the Huangpu River for 9 days, while authorities carry out mass COVID-19 testing. The Pudong Financial District and nearby areas will be locked down from Monday to Friday, while the remaining areas on the opposite side of the river will go under lockdown after. While experts have warned of the economic impacts facing China due to its hardline COVID-19 measures, Shanghai's lockdown stands to become the largest of any city in China's campaign against the virus. The British police will issue 20 fines as part of their investigation into illegal parties held at Downing Street, while the rest of the country was living under strict pandemic rules. The so-called Partygate scandal had sparked outrage in the UK and threatened leader Boris Johnson's political standing. Police said there are continuing investigations and more penalty notices could be issued soon. The identities of those being fined, however, will not be disclosed, but Johnson is reportedly not among those in the first wave of sanctions. His Downing Street office has previously said it will disclose significant developments in the probe relating to the Prime Minister. Public outcry over the scandal had left Johnson fighting for political survival in recent months, after a number of MPs from his Conservative Party publicly called for his resignation. Pressure, however, has eased on the British leader following Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the Western response to the war there. Tonight on Consider This, we speak to Rafizi Ramli, who is returning to active politics after a 4-year hiatus. Can he win his bid for PKR's number 2 post, a race he lost in 2018, and refresh a party affected by factionalism and electoral reversals? That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Get the latest news updates on COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines from astroawani.com and the Astro AWANI app. I'm Farhana Sheikh. We'll see you again.